after the massive
You know what's crazy is that wallpaper fade, like, me is, dude, it is still
success of Sonic 3, Shadow has gone up into some interesting matchups, like every character does when the movie comes out. And one of these interesting matchups is Sign from Murder Jones, and if you think about it, they're kind of similar. Ultimate life forms, you know, with somewhat tragic backstories involving a relationship with a little girl. You know, you can kind of see the connection. So, hence, people have been putting them against each other. So I want to put in my take. Who do I think wins between the live-action Shadow that we see in the Sonic 3 movie versus Sign from the Murder Jones series? Sin will be in episode 7 state, while Shadow will be given access to the Chaos Emeralds, and he will have the chance to move his inhibitor rings. As we don't really know if the inhibitor rings work in the same way as the games, other than giving him some form of strength boost, though unquantifiably so. Obviously, this video starts with spoilers for Sonic 3. I've talked about Sin before on this channel, so let's just cover her again really quickly. The lowest end you can get for Sin would be the casual black holes, or nulls as referred to them as the series, would be multi-continental, which is a pretty good baseline for this character, which they're able to crush these black holes in their bare hands. We also know these black holes are able to perform a similar feat in a later episode as well. This is consistent with the fodder Worker Jones surviving a country level explosion, though once again, this just might be inconsistent. It might just be wrong for all we know, because due to the fact that they've gotten affected by forks, or they're just piercing durability sucks. I think that might just be it. Their piercing durability might just suck. But back to the point. The explosion is not higher due to them not being at the epicenter, so at least she would be multi-continental. But there is higher ends, due to the fact that when Sign went to the core of the planet in episode 7, before blowing up the planet entirely, this would actually be calculated the planetary plus ranges of power due to the fragmentation of the planet itself. Once again, this is something pretty casual for her, and she does as well, like taunting the main cast, though that could just be her in character at what she does. We also know that 2 other drones in the aforementioned humanity-ending explosion were at the epicenter, and this would scale them to large planetary, and Sign obviously just scales to this. Sign also can just bust planets outright, pretty simple, which, getting into that specifically for her attack potency, like a specific ability, this larger null, which shouldn't scale to the normal nulls that they kind of throw out casually. We don't really know how she creates this, we just know she can create a larger black hole, which is end up calculated to the large star level ranges of power. However, once again, there's no evidence this would scale to the lower nulls, as they're obviously calced lower. Obviously, a smaller black hole too would be doing less damage and have less energy output than a larger black hole, as well as the fact there's no evidence this would scale to any of Sin's physicals. Which makes sense, as once again, these smaller black holes can harm Sin, and characters that are likely not in the large star ranges can harm Sin, who have gotten affected by these lower things before, making it consistent that her physically, that she should just cap in the large planetary ranges at best, with having large star level attack potency with a specific black hole. For speed, the verse should be relativistic at a baseline, considering her own reaction to the black hole's attacks, as well as Uzi's reactions to lasers in earlier episodes. We also know that these characters should also be in the FTL speeds, another reaction to the null. There's also some MFTL reactions of when Sign is traveling the galaxy, or when the Worker Drone reacts to a spaceship. However, the problem is with the first feat that this is not really unquantifiable, which is fine for calcs since they're giving several estimations. But the main problem is this would just scale to her flight speed in space, nothing to essentially insinuate this would scale to her combat or reaction speed. The reaction of the Worker Drone just kind of gets debunked via the fact that when a spaceship enters the atmosphere, it visibly gets slower. So it's not like they're reacting to an actual MFTL drone, but even at a higher end, this would only get Sign into the MFTL ranges, about to be specific, 216 times the speed of light, or at a high end, 6,152 times the speed of light. And this will be more important later. For Sonic's hacks and abilities, she has a lot, so we'll just speedrun through them. She obviously has the nulls and black holes, she has telekinesis, duplication, adding and removing kinetic energy from objects, general manipulation of matter, yada yada yada, manipulating gravity, teleportation, regeneration, force fields, and specifically with her core, when it gets taken out, it has some sort of time stop ability. However, she can't really use this on command or normally. Now, moving on to Movie Shadow, like Sign, his base line is around the multi-continental ranges of power. Not only does the Eclipse Cannon calc at this level when it simply grazes the moon, which not only does a Super Shadow tank, but even before he takes off his inhibitor rings, he literally powers the damn Eclipse Cannon, and people that he can harm his durability, and people that can harm him, he scales back to. This isn't inconsistent with Sonic being described to have can create cataclysmic events.
Down! Right!
Don't worry, little sibling rivalry is healthy. Me and my brothers used to do this kind of thing all the time.
Tom, your brothers are lunatics, and neither of them were born with the power to trigger a global cataclysmic event. So
That's a fair point. You hear that, boys? No cataclysmic events, okay? Let's keep this cataclysmicless.
Which are events categorized that some of them can get into the multi-continental ranges of power, and arguably higher, which Sonic also has several feats in earlier films of a slightly lower caliber, whose Shadow should upscale massively. Considering the fact this is a much weaker Sonic doing these things, and Shadow should upscale Sonic just that massively, consider he could do things like knock out Knuckles, who should physically scale to Sonic within a single strike, and Sonic in 2. Keep in mind that at the start of the first fight, and when Shadow just awakens, it's noted that Shadow is weakened from his rest. Not only that, he didn't really want to fight them at first, and just kind of want to be left alone, like the edgy emo boy he is. He's such a Sigma. Even then, once again, he puts Knuckles and Sonic down in a few hits respectively, before he knocks them out. He's obviously massively above a base Sonic, and a base Knuckles who scales back to base Sonic. Further, once again, cementing his range in the multi-continental ranges of power. But once again, he only gets higher with his super form and likely without his inhibitor rings, though his base would scale to the Eclipse Cannon to an arguable degree anyways. The Eclipse Cannon, which Shadow tanks the beam for a prolonged period of time, and obviously Super Shadow can harm Super Sonic and they scale to each other, as Super Sonic can also harm his durability, even if Super Sonic is likely weaker. This, as we said before, even just the graze of this beam is multi-continental. However, the full power of the beam, which Gerald says would essentially burst up the planet and destroy everything in a 25k mile radius, which is actually more than the Earth. And this is actually impressive since Eggman noted the explosion would be so vast that it would actually hit them up in the spaceship. Meaning it was just going to destroy the planet, it was going to destroy probably the moon as well and everything that's around it in the atmosphere. Due to this and due to just the force of how it was going to destroy the planet, you can get this beam into the large planetary to dwarf star levels of power, which should be Shadow's max AP. For speed, at baseline, Shadow should be relativistic to FTL due to Sonic upscaling, just the lower ends of him seeing missiles and bullets is frozen. Even baby Sonic, when he traveled across Green Hill, is at this level, and then oversetting several times as he's going into hyperspeed, which is past the speed of light. But you can get a much higher off of the multiplier, which off the multiplier 3,000 to 7,000 quills, and due to the fact this is a base casual Sonic feat of the Sonic bullet timing, which when recalc actually does get a bit higher into the FTL to FTL plus ranges of power. Or when you add this multiplier, it would actually get into the MFTL plus ranges of power, anywhere ranging from over 86 million times the speed of light to over 200 million times the speed of light. That is crazy. And that is extremely high into MFTO. And this line of scaling would remain consistent with Sonic's pulse traveling in the universe, which would get over 109 trillion times the speed of light, or once again MFTO+. For Shadow's hacks use teleportation and all of his basic chaos abilities. However, the main thing to note in that the Shadow Generations DLC, which should be canon, that it is actually a story where Game Shadow essentially becomes Movie Shadow for a while, and that she states that he has all of the basic abilities from the game, including, as we see in the cutscenes, Chaos Control. Considering though Shadow has the Chaos powers in the film and uses things like the Chaos Spirits, I don't think it's that big of a jump to say he has things like Chaos Control. It would be a little weird if he just has like Chaos Spears, and we already know he has Chaos power within him, so it'd be weird if he didn't have Chaos Control. With Chaos Control, since it is coming from Game Shadow's statement, we can use the game description of what Chaos Control is. It's a manipulation of time, space, and reality. You can use it to create BFR opponents and create space-time attacks as distortion, which is a form of durability negation. We also know Chaos Control can work on beings and things that are above space and time as well. Since he just has his basic abilities and stuff, he should also get his other Chaos attacks, as well as things like his shield, amping himself up, or healing himself. All in all, who wins? Well, Sign does have a better attack potency with her black hole. She is physically weaker than Shadow, and while her strikes could harm Shadow, he'd be taking them most while easily overpowering her at the same time, as Sign physically is only large planetary, while Shadow physically, even with the inhibitor rings on, is large planetary to dwarf star level, and once again, that's before he takes the inhibitor rings off. But the main problem is speed. At best, Sign is 1,602 times the speed of light, while Shadow lowballed is 86 million times the speed of light. To put it into quantification, that's a gap of over 53,000 times. And Shadow would have the capability to blitz Sign before she can even react over 5,000 times before Sign could do a thing. Not is Sign not able to react to Shadow whatsoever, or more or less charge up a large star black hole to use. Shadow would just tear her in half before she can react. And he has ways to bypass her regeneration as well, or just physically overpower it. If he just, since we don't know the limit of the regeneration, we only know it can do things such, regenerate a limb or a head. About the core, which is the only thing you can say, Shadow literally has a more powerful time step ability that works in places outside of time, and he's so fast he would just get out of the very small range anyways. Once again, as I said before, same thing with her regen. He'd probably just kill her before the regeneration could do a thing. Or just AoE attack her with the Chaos Spears if it really becomes that much of a problem. But Viper, Sign's universal. I missed this in my last video, but the Sign argument for her being anywhere above large star level sucks. This scan is promo. This scan is a metaphor. This literally has the Joe face meme in it. I don't know why you want someone to take this seriously if you put the Joe face meme in it. Also, either way, Sonic is a lot higher if you want to take Sign's wink, literally. Not only does one of Sonic Quills have unlimited energy, which he is at least 3,000 of, which is already higher than baseline Universal anyways. Eggman thinks he can take over the universe and the multiverse in Sonic 2 with his Death Egg once he got the Master Emerald. Once again, it's just higher. Even if you for some reason believe Sign is universal, then you have to believe Sonic's higher ends too. It'd be very weird to suddenly lie about Sign being universal or take some ridiculous higher end for the character and then just ignore all of Shadow's higher ends that are blatantly higher than hers anyway, so it doesn't matter. In conclusion, while Sign has better attack potency with her black holes, due to Shadow being physically more stronger and durable, and being much faster and having the hack speed to counter her, he'd ultimately win at the end of the